espacio más de conversación de nuestro podcast del diario financiero. Hoy día tenemos un interesante invitado, así que les cuento que esta es una versión que va a ser, inicialmente vamos a partir de este saludo en español y luego vamos a irnos a inglés. En la primera versión va a estar disponible en audio en inglés y más adelante va a estar con subtítulos en video, por lo tanto, aquellos que quieran pueden usar cualquiera de las dos alternativas. Quiero agradecer a nuestros auspiciadores, a Mastercard, empieza por las personas, empieza al que no tiene precio, Easy, cuando renuevas tu hogar también te renuevas por dentro, y Libertex, Trade for More. Así que voy a partir brevemente contando qué es lo que es Pismo y después vamos a dar la bienvenida a Ricardo Joshua, que está con nosotros. Welcome, Ricardo.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Que nos va a contar un poco sobre su empresa, que es un gran emprendimiento en Brasil que se está expandiendo al resto del mundo. So we'll switch now to English and start talking about Pismo. Briefly, you correct me, Ricardo, if I'm mistaken. Pismo is a technology company, cloud-based, that provides an all-in-one processing platform for banking and payments. We'll talk about it later on, but now please tell me why Pismo? What does the name Pismo mean? Why did you start with that name?
Yeah, so this is not my idea, unfortunately. This is my co-founder and CTO Daniela's idea. The story of Pismo begins with Pismo, the beach in California. So Daniela has worked with me for almost 20 years now, more than 20 years actually, 22 years now. And she was a CTO under me on my previous company, a very large card processor here in Brazil. I left the company in 2014. She left the company in late 2015. And when she left, she said, "I need to, just renew my background and my technology knowledge." So she went on a trip to California to visit some Silicon Valley companies. And she did so, and she said, "Oh my God, there's so much happening now. It's super exciting." On the way back to Los Angeles, she was driving from San Francisco to California. She went to this beach called Pismo Beach. It's a lovely name. And she was listening to a podcast saying, well, if you're starting a business, it's important that the company name is easy to pronounce in many languages, that it doesn't necessarily have to mean something. It just has to be catchy. And he said, "Oh, if I ever build a company, it's going to be called Pismo." It's such a beautiful sunset here. So that's the story.
Yeah. So a year later, 2016, Daniela, you and other two co-founders started Pismo. Yes. Tell me, what did you see in that moment that gave you the idea that this cloud-based integrated platform was necessary at the time?
Yeah, so it all comes from this trip that Daniela took to California. Many people don't know that even with all the fintech advancements in the world now, the infrastructure that most companies use still relies heavily on outdated and legacy infrastructure. So there's an estimation from AWS that about 80 to 90% of all financial transactions, electronic financial transactions, are still processed in a mainframe COBOL system. 6-year-old system. When you do purchase,
that even for big companies,
oh yeah,
because you can understand that for little companies who have low.
Oh yeah, this is for financial institutions all over the world. Again, most companies now have APIs, have agile teams, squads. However, they still connect to this old infrastructure underneath, because some of the structure that is provided today for companies to operate in, for bank transfers, for card transactions, are still very old. For example, card transactions, you can now do so many fancy stuff. You can add a card to an Apple or Samsung cell phone or an Android cell phone. You can now have instant approval and issue a card instantaneously with the app. But when you connect to a terminal anywhere in the world, the protocol you're using to transfer the information that will become an authorization or not is a protocol that was developed in 1987.
So you can say, in other words, that as consumers, we get the easy part, the quick things, but then on the backstage, there's a problem, and then we're back in 40 years ago. But how come big tech companies that offer payments haven't grabbed that opportunity of business and still focus on the transaction and not on the backstage?
It's a very hard thing to change. This is just very ingrained and very internal to most companies and banks. So to change this is a very hard undertaking. It will take a lot of effort from the companies, but I think the cost of not doing so has now become larger than the cost of doing the migration. So you see what we call the neo-core solutions becoming more and more popular. We have large international banks like JP Morgan announcing that they're going to cloud services and partnering with cloud solutions. We have here in Latin America, Estados doing that with our help. So there's a lot of banks seeing there's only a limit of what you can do for the consumer-facing application if you don't change the way the internal procedures are done.
Mm-hmm. And these internal procedures, do you think is more of a cultural resistance, a fear of, I don't know, attacks from cyber attacks? Or do you think it's basically, it's not worth the money? What's the reason people don't engage?
Well, I think, the way that technology evolved over the last, 40 years, and, first with internet and then mobile phones, was that most companies, instead of revamping and changing their infrastructure, they piled up new versions on top of the old core. So, back, starting with internet, or even before that, starting with visual interfaces. It used to be that not long ago, I was starting my career and people would still go and do transactions and have, call center operations or go to the bank. And the teller would have that black screen with, just text in it.
Yeah.
So, right? So, there's that. And then you move to graphical user interfaces and then internet and then mobile banking.
So you say technology works usually in this way. It just goes in laps and interlaps the old with the new, and then it goes advancing. So it's a
exactly.
way. Yeah. But then let's talk about Pismo a little. You have card issuing, digital banking, digital wallets, and digital marketplaces. These are 4 lines of work. I think maybe they cross themselves sometimes. Well, where do you see the future right now? And this 4, where's the card issuing seems to be going, at least in our country, the competition is fierce. Digital wallets, so today even central banks are starting. Where do you think these 4 columns, the future will be?
So this is a great question, and I think the vision we have is that people have gotten used to separating these services. And when you look at our platform, what we did was a bottom-up approach. So we looked at this. So what people do with money, it doesn't matter if it's a central bank digital currency, like a cryptocurrency issued by a central bank. It doesn't matter if it's pesos or Brazilian reais or dollars. It doesn't matter if it's cards or banking accounts. We usually have the same components. So the way we built our system, and this was very important to us, was not defined by the products that people use today. It was defined by the essence of what financial transactions are. So we built this core system of microservices, the core platform, that has balances, ledgers, transactions that move money or values from account to account, internally or externally, and event management. This is the system. Around this core microservices, there are other services that will connect these core services to a host of different applications. So creating an account or a balance or a ledger works for a credit card, for a debit card,
and in the future, will work with whatever new thing comes up.
Exactly. And the future we're discussing now, what if the future becomes fully DeFi? What if central banks change current currency solutions for blockchain solutions? It shouldn't matter as long as people want to see their balance as fungible as things that can, interchange fungible values and transact with those stable. The only caveat we have is that currently most systems, and ours is not different, work with stable coins. So it has to be fungible. It has to be able to, if you add 5 and 5, you
that's
have 10
limit,
of the same thing.
In a way.
That's the limit today. But other than that, if you're still using things that you call the same name and that you can, mix up and transact, adding or subtracting, calculating interest or not.
So some of the cryptos would be okay. Some of the cryptos would be okay.
Coins,
some others.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then you just as Pismo, you have been growing in the hand of big companies. Many of them from Brazil, where you come from, Itaú, BTG. I don't know how you say that in English, but we call it BTG.
BTG.
And then the Falabella, was our Chilean country. What will happen? What happens to medium companies? Are you available for them for small companies? And how do you work with this mega all around the world companies and then with small ones?
So this is an interesting question. We do have a very wide range of clients. These are the well-known because these are very large corporations, but now we have dozens of fintechs, from N26 to Quora, from Bankly to CloudWalk, that are using our platform to launch their products. And, it's the same. The only thing we believe, and this is what maybe limits our services or who can use our services, that we believe that when I started my previous company in the 1990s, we had this view of the world that technology was a means to an end. So if you are a bank, for example, you lend money or you help people transact money, but they don't have to worry about technology. So let me do the technology. And I was the means for providing those. Today, I have a different view. I understand that any company in the world, it doesn't matter if it's a mining company or if it's a bank, but for banks, I think this is more true than ever. It has to be a technology company. Every company is a technology company at heart today. It has to be. And so we need companies that have their own technology capabilities and that can build around the infrastructure we provide. So we don't have, our system is very robust, but all the intelligence and all the, for example, with FPay, with Falabella, the ideas of how to orchestrate this, how to transform this into a useful product to your clients or merchants or your consumers is completely coming from the side of the client. So we don't build the apps, we don't do the business logic within that, but we provide the plumbing, the infrastructure, so this can be very robust. Yeah.
And that will be your view for the next year. So do you have something coming up different? Because what you've told me, you already developed that's working. You're going all over the region, but what's coming next?
So our big focus next year is global expansion. So today we have offices and clients in Latin America, but we're now we already have offices in Austin, Texas. We have offices in the UK. And we're just launching an office in Singapore. We have contracts now in Asia and Europe, and soon, hopefully, North America as well. We're close to that as well. So next year, I think we're going to prove, and we are proving this, so far, that Latin American companies can be global players in technology, and we're already seeing a lot of confirmation for that.
Part of your business is still in Brazil.
No, so we still have most of engineering talent in Brazil. And we do have people from all over South America working for us. We now are increasing the number of people from different regions. So now we have engineers and technical writers in the US.
But it's a business share as a part of your.
But part of it's not. These are not commercial units outside. So we really are working to build a global company that has. And this is something we see in Latin America primarily. I think we as South Americans, we see this a lot, that large companies will open offices in Chile or Brazil or other countries here or Mexico, but they will be commercial offices and all the technology will be imported from the headquarters. Yeah. What we're trying to do here is, of course, build a lot of the technology here, but build this globally too. So we have been very happy and fortunate to have people working in cross-border squads. So, we have developer experience being built with people from Brazil, the US, Ukraine, and a lot of people with different cultures, different backgrounds. The same applies for a new landing, but using resources from all these countries of having different cultural approaches to product development.
Estamos conversando con Ricardo Joshua, que es el fundador, entre 4 fundadores de Pismo, una empresa que nació en Brasil, pero que hoy día está a nivel global. Agradecemos a Mastercard y Libertex por esta conversación. Ricardo, now I would like to go to the inside of Pismo. There are 4 founders. That's a lot of founders for one company. And usually we see that after a couple of years, but in your case, it's been already 5 years, it's difficult to handle a number of people who by themselves have other ideas and they're moving forward. How do you manage having 4 heads in one company?
It's been so far. Well, first of all, I have been working with these people. With the 4 of us, have been working for 20 years now, and in some cases more than 20 years. So these are very intimate people, and I think this brings a level of trust that is super important for us. And I think we complement each other. And we help each other. People don't. I think now it's getting more common. But of course, starting a company, doing a startup business, especially like ours, we manage currently every month almost $4 billion in transaction volume. So it's a very high responsibility, and we are very aware of this responsibility. So it's sometimes you get tired, frustrated, afraid, insecure, too bold, maybe sometimes. And having this balance with people, we have 2, Daniela, Juliana, me, and Marcelo. We have different temperaments, and we complement each other, very in a very useful manner. So we cheerlead each other, we help each other, we fight a lot, but it's been a good experience for the past 20 odd years. So hopefully it will be in the future as well.
I read somewhere in an interview you gave last year that you consider the number 1 trait you share as co-founders is that you worry a lot, that you are anxious, and that you control everything, and then basically then that explains how the 4 of you have something in common, despite what you say.
Yeah. It's funny because myself and Daniela, who's my co-founder CTO, we are warriors. We worry all the time, and Marcel and Juliana are the happy-go-lucky ones. They are always, think things will work out fine. So we have a balance, but of course, deep down, I think every founder who can call himself a founder, especially in a business like this, has to worry a lot. And people don't talk about this a lot. I think people talk about being resilient, but the flip side of being resilient is you're dealing with problems, right? When the company is growing, you have doubts, you have problems, you have to deal with getting tired and sleeping very few hours
Ricardo, you just
night.
mentioned you're a warrior. What are you worried about right now? Not inside of Pismo, but what are you worried about what's happening around the world, this post-pandemic or maybe even pandemic world? We don't know with Omicron and everything. What do you worry about? Regulation?
I think regulation has been very forward in most countries. So I think the central banks were actually, and for us, the pandemic, of course, has taken a toll everywhere, and people have suffered in every corner of the world for this. However, for a company like ours that works with technology and digitalization of services, it's been very usable for us. It's terrible to say that, but it's true because everyone is moving towards digital services now and not in-person services. So I think in that sense, Marilee, I think it's the trend is very good for digitalization. I think what concerns me, I think it's politics. I think in the world, I think how now we see, and I think that reflects in other things. So how rich countries are hoarding vaccines while the rest of the world breeds new variants, how inequality is happening in different countries. And of course, this will haunt us. I think this is a problem that everyone will have to face. So I think, this is something that we discuss every day here. And we're still not at the size where we can make a huge impact, but we're daily working with diversity programs within Pismo, helping the economy grow and bringing jobs to South America and giving opportunity to different types of people. So we're trying to do our part, but I think it's the challenge that I see for my kids, how this polarized world will go out.
And I have one last question. You are based or started in a country that has, as you say, strong political issues. Now in other countries like Peru, Colombia, Chile, they face similar challenges, and entrepreneurs have to decide whether they enter politics as an actor. I mean, not in taking a post or anything, but making political statement, participating in different process. For example, in Chile, we're rewriting the constitution. So we see a group of entrepreneurs in Latin America that have decided they have to challenge politics and put their points in, and other entrepreneurs that have decided they have to work in their companies, and that's the how they'll help the country. Which one are you in?
Oh, I believe everyone is a political actor, right? It's not a choice. Even if you remain silent, this is a political action as well. Everyone is participating in some way. We saw in our elections now, the level of polarization that we're seeing elsewhere in the world. I think same will happen in next year in Brazil. So taking a stance or not taking a stance is a political act. So I don't think we should avoid this. I think we should be open about our views, and more importantly, I think when we saw the concession speech in Chile, I think it comforted us, and the media here has been very keen on this. Saying that it became a civil concession where the institutions are stronger than the individuals. I think this is important because we will have more and more, apparently, very polarized views of the world competing for elections for executive and legislative office. But we have to work with what the people choose. So I think just the distinction here is that I don't have to be backing one candidate or another candidate. I think we have to be strong in our convictions of how we can improve each of our countries and the world. So. And work with whoever wins, right? And in a good sense, right? Because we have to construct with what we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo Joshua, one of the founders of Pismo, for having this conversation with us and everyone that's hearing us. I hope you do have a great 2022. And the next time we speak, all these plans of going to Asia, the States, and everyone are already in their way. Thank you very much.
Of course, and next one will be in Spanish, I promise. I'm studying.
Or maybe Portuguese. That would be.
Or you can study Portuguese. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
Después de estar tantos meses en nuestro hogar, nos dimos cuenta de tantas cosas. Que si cuidabas a tu hogar te cuidaba a ti. Que una pieza podía ser tu dormitorio, un gimnasio, una sala de clase y tu oficina. Te diste cuenta que cuando ordenabas tu hogar te sentías mejor y que cuando le dabas un nuevo estilo a tus espacios, algo en ti cambiaba. Porque cuando renuevas tu hogar, también te renuevas por dentro. Easy, renueva el amor por tu hogar.